Welcome everybody to Power at the Podcast. On today's episode, I have with me great friend Phil Gabbard. And I mean it when I say great friend. There's no hyperbole on that. He's someone that I've known for going on, maybe
20 years?
God bless, really. 20 years, yeah. It's 15, 17, 18 years. Yeah, I met him back when I was a producer over at Univision or Untitled. I went there to do commercials and just shoot and write scripts. And Phil was the radio sales manager, for Untitled. And although we didn't work together directly because he was in radio, I was in television. We obviously were in the same building, so you convene, you get to know who you gravitate to, who makes sense, and I just always had a connection with Phil. He would always call me in to help him or to work with him on developing scripts for promotional ads for different doctors, and I just really enjoyed the times that I had to work with him because I know that I had to up my game, in terms of writing concept, of developing, delivering messaging, and what that meant. And at that point in my life, it was all instinctive. I just kind of had this kinetic, neurological impulse towards knowing how to communicate and how to shoot and edit. And with Phil, he was. He was a sales manager, and part of his credentials, part of the skill set was recognizing talent in people around him and creating a scenario to elicit that talent, to effectively communicate, the message of a product to a client so that there is, a positive ROI. Is that accurate?
That's pretty accurate. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so now Phil Gabbard, I hadn't talked to him in over, I would say, a year and a half, 2 years. We just kind of, he went to do his thing. I went to do my thing, which is Power at the Past. And then Phil just went off to become a giant in radio and went to LA and did all kinds of really cool things. And one of those really cool things is, and I say cool as a broad stroke, but with a lot of depth, and one of those things is writing a book. He wrote a book called This Day, and
it's not about radio.
It's not about radio. It's not about radio. It's
kind of.
It's philosophy. It's philosophy of marketing, but it's so much more. Talk about Phil. Talk about what spawned this idea and why you did it.
It wasn't a career in radio. It wasn't a lot of things. It was a lot of life that happened along the path, and I guess the genesis of the idea to write a book happened after I had a cathartic outpouring of, emotional words that I needed to communicate to my son, some elements that I had to talk with my brother about, some things that I needed to get off my chest with my mother, some things that I had to put out as a clearing for myself. So writing a book was the least important thing on my agenda, my bucket list. It was not a have to in my life, but it really is a collection of thoughts that were expressed in communication to get me out of some pain that I was going through. So it's really a fantastic story of a journey of communication, and in there lies how we communicate with one another, how we communicate with passion and heartfelt meaning and expression and understanding and the pursuit of that. Because in my journey, I felt that our lives were really inauthentic at some point in how we communicate with one another. I liken that to things that we do, like listen to music. And to give you a very good example, to give your audience a very good example, is we hear songs over and over and again, like you and I have done. I spent 30 years in the media business. only to realize what in the hell that artist was really trying to communicate to us at some point. When you finally listened to the words, when you finally heard the emotionality and what this artist went through to communicate at depth. But sometimes along the way, we get hung up on the riff, on the beat, on the moment that song reminds me of, which has nothing to do with the meaning of that song and why this artist ripped open his chest or her chest to bore out these words to another human. And so my journey to writing this day began with an upset with my son, my adult son, who I found one evening to really have a, some kind of breakdown or, stop or, being stuck in his life. And I wrote a few words to him that kind of opened up something and cracked a little bit of light into my soul. I wrote some words that went along the lines of, I'd love to take your pain away. I could actually. I mean, I could have bought him what he needed. I could have got him, back into the house instead of at school. I could have done 1,000 things. And if I would have, he would have stayed a boy. And if I didn't do what I needed to do, he would never become the man that he needed to be. And as a parent, you can't fix this and everything. And we've got to deliver messages, and we've got to deliver our words with power, and we've got to listen with an intent. And so that was me putting all of this stuff out onto paper. But other than that, I did not go out to write a book, Val. I went out to really cleanse my soul of some things that I needed to, I guess, organize and orchestrate in a way that made sense for me and how I wanted to, how I wanted my path to continue on this journey.
Absolutely. And one of the things that, when last Phil and I were working or, talking and, convening is we were both considering me helping them write, this book here. Or not this book, but his book.
I toyed around with writing a
screenplay.
Screenplay.
Yeah, and I remember vaguely, or not, the little images that I had in my head were of a fly in a room, and like the fly was a metaphor for not sure, but it was
it was really a metaphor of a fly on a windowsill, and that was the name of the script, the windowsill, where me as a conflicted life force was annoyed by this tap 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 and the buzzing of these wings on this fly on this glass windowsill in my office, trying to get out. And the kind of the parable or the story of that was, this fly is going to, sees everything that he wants in life, in the outside world, but keeps bumping up against this glass. And he's going to keep trying to bump up against that glass, trying to break through, because on the other side of that glass is everything that he sees and wants and feels like life is about. But unfortunately, that fly is going to beat his last, days of buzzing and tapping against this glass and die on that windowsill in vain, trying to break through this glass to this world that he perceived as being special. Conversely, the door on the other side of the room was wide open, but it just seemed, counterintuitive for the fly to, leave what was right in front of him. He just could not figure out how to break through that glass. So that was a design of a screenplay, or, an aspect of a screenplay that kind of went through my life. But, I guess, Val, the years of spending time as a sales manager, a marketing director, a guy that controlled the interests of, advertisers' lives and their world, salespeople in their world. I felt like there was a lot of inauthenticities and things that we would do, and how we would treat one another, and where we didn't feel having some breakthrough. So part of that screenplay story was still me helping some people who I needed to help transition so they could better help me. And what in all of that I found is that I had an opportunity to actually help people. So not that I intended to write a book of self-discovery, but this day ended up being a book of self-discovery.
And one of the things that I enjoyed was having read his book, and still reading the book, was that I wasn't part of it. That that the time that since I've seen him, that he came with a finished book. It was completely fresh to me. And I love it just because you get self-absorbed in your own world. Especially me, I'm so aloof and in some cases detached, and I live in my head so much where I don't want to hear myself. I don't want to read the interpretation of this. I want something completely fresh and to reconnect, and so I thoroughly appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I think the book is, I think, as you now can see, is absolutely different than most anything else that is out there. It's really one of those things that I've struggled with in the development of this book. I did a couple cool things though, Val. Along the path, you and I first talked about, obviously after years of friendship, working on a screenplay together. And, as any artist would know, when your art is good, there's some developmental years, the years that you're journeying through developing your skill set. I was not, I was writing, and I think if I could differentiate this as a writer, sometimes we write because we set out to write. Okay, I want to write a screenplay. I want to write a book. And for me, as soon as I gave up the want of writing and allowed myself just to communicate my feelings out on paper, regardless of how it sounded, is when I really became free, when this really flowed through me. And you're an author, you know it. When this hit, when South Sunrises hit for you, it flowed through you. You go through this experience where it's a cathartic experience, like a painter or a sculptor or any other talent, experiences an area where things happen, and it happens because it's a strength, or there's a pure flow of that positive thought or that vibration of energy that gets you and provides guidance as if you were an outlet simply operating on autopilot. It just goes through you, and then afterwards you are able to look back and go, you know what, that is the art I was intending. There's something here. There's something more than me purposefully trying to put the right words on paper. When I gave that up, the right words found me, and they found a way to get assembled in such a way that made sense. So after I probably wrote 350, 400,000 words. And I'm not being facetious. I wrote a lot. And I finally wrapped it up, and I shared it with another friend and said, look, there's something here. So I took a little bit of advice and searched out a way to do this right. And in that, I was turned on with the fact of attempting to raise money through Kickstarter. And so I explored that and figured out a way to raise money.
We'll get to before we get to the Kickstarter and what you did with that money and why you decided to go that route. I want to talk about your the structure of the book, or the style of the book, because in this day and age when you have books like The Tipping Point, and and these kind of phenomenal flux books that
Malcolm
Malcolm,
Gladwell.
yeah, Malcolm Gladwell, um, and that's that kind of book, and then you have the self help genre, right? You have
Yeah.
Maxwell, and you have Dr. Wayne Dyer and Deepak, and and even Esther Hicks, and there's a whole slew of options of things to buy, and you have the Gary V phenomenon,
Mm-hmm.
and these books, right? That that I haven't, the ones I've read, I like to think I find value, where I must,
It's
and but with your book, me having written a book that I subtitled a poetic narrative. I remember being on a show with Tim Hernandez, and who's an author and a professor of Words on a Wire. He talked about how most times he's critical of books that have subtitles, and just because it's not accurate. But when he read my book, he said it made sense. It was a poetic narrative. It was a story that I told in poetry, just because, for one, I probably couldn't write the novel at that point in my life. And secondly, because I wanted to have more fun with it. It was more elliptical. I was able to paint images and images to meaning. And in your book, it's not. I like that word a lot, elliptical, because I got it from Raúl Salinas, who's a poet from Austin. He passed away, long 15 years ago, and he was one of my early mentors when I was living in Austin. And for me, it means that it's ovular. I could put a shape to, when I say the word elliptical. I can think of images that are round, and you can fit different formations together, and it's stylized, and so I like that it's an extension of the subconscious, and in the way that you're given essays, but yet you jump immediately to another lesson or a story.
It comes off. It comes off like our any conversation. It's random. It's not formatic and formulaic. It is, and it needed to be. I didn't write it that way. It fell out of me that way. I had a thought and I followed it, and I had another thought and I followed it, and I was able to curtail some things, in a way that. Was opposite of self-help. I, again, categorically didn't write a book to be this kind of, to fit this kind of, space on somebody's bookshelf. I understand that, this book now will be categorized as a self-development book or a self-help book, but it might also be a business book, a parenting book, a philosophy, book. It could be in 10 different places in your local library, your local bookstore. So I had a large problem with me telling you what to do with your life. And most books come off this way of, 5 things to do to fix your screwed up life, and these 12 steps to great freedoms, and all of these other, concerns that I have about, I don't know, snake oil salespeople, in the way that sometimes we want to try to sell you our shiny shit and, to sell something, and any book that, to me, that comes off, and I argue a little bit about this, Valentine, there's some great books out there that have sold a ton, but I call them the fuck books. That's Unfuck Your Life, or The Art of Not Giving or The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. These books have sold millions. The great thing about these books is that they were able to use a title to capture somebody's attention, and quite honestly, it helped a lot of people find reading again. So I don't want to, I'm not dissing them in that sense, because there's a lot of good content in those books. It is just that it's unfortunate it took, some kind of unscrupulous idea of marketing to go, hey, we'll put fuck in the title, and it's going to be a little bit irreverent and sell some books. Well, it's good marketing, And the trick was it did get new people to buy the book. It's just unfortunate that's where we are to have people.
It reminds me of. You're right. I don't know. I wouldn't call it good marketing. It's certainly effective in terms of creating a response,
Yep.
and I think that's one part of marketing. But I think another part of marketing, at the risk of sounding esoteric and idealistic and naive, is keep bearing in mind your awareness of your impact and the power that you have as a marketer. Sort of a spellcaster, and that's one of the things that is barely coming to awareness in my spectrum, my thought process. I wouldn't have said this 10 years ago. I'm saying it now, and that's that. It reminds me of when, maybe I'm getting older. I feel like an older man now. I feel like when Martin Scorsese was talking about editing, and his editor Thelma Schoonmaker, and how you impact attention spans, how you collectively, because you have a bullhorn that reaches millions of people and influence, and even to get a little film geek here is Sergei Eisenstein, who was a Russian filmmaker and editor, did Battleship Potemkin, and he was a masterful editor, and he came up with this term called semiology. And semiology is, my understanding of it is the relationship of editing to chemistry, to physics, to neurology, and so there's a responsibility in that, and marketing, and I think that these books are effective. I mean, how many times have we done that? How many times do I feel like I'm fucking brilliant because I'm gonna do this title here and it's gonna get the attention,
But it's human. It's human. It's human to try to figure out what we can do to get a result. Okay, this is way before maybe it was the original marketing, but we wanted things, we needed things, and we pulled things together and we said things in ways to, give us an outcome, a predictable outcome, a reliable outcome. It's part of safety and security and survival, all of those things. Anymore today, it really is, we're just saying a bunch of shit to get people to buy things that they didn't know they wanted when they woke up. And I feel like there's a game being played. And for some of us, most of us, I talk about heavily in this book, is that most of us have been told how to feel, how to think, how to, wait in line and, have this kind of hair and wear these kind of clothes and drink this kind of drink. And then when you do that, you will have this. And unfortunately, those are not truisms of life. They're empty promises. And I acknowledge the fact that I was part of that serving part of that aspect of selling shit to people that didn't know what they wanted when they woke up this morning. So there's an unknowing, and I really key on this in our pursuit of life is that we should pursue understanding, but most of us typically have been handed off how to feel, how to think, to say this when they say that. We have been told the stories of the Bible. We have been, told the tenets of our Constitution. We have been told, everybody asks me, what's the book about? And they want me to tell them what the book's about. Because we have this voracious appetite of, just tell me what this shit is about. I don't want to read it. I haven't read Aristotle. I haven't read Epictetus. I haven't read the Bible. I haven't read the Constitution. So most of us claim that we have. We know the greatest hits. We know the one-liners. We know that one line in that song that we like a lot. But, we didn't know that Ozzy Osbourne was singing about, running off the rails on this crazy train. That song is deep and profound, but everybody wants to, get along with the riff of I. Everybody knows that song. That's one of the most deepest fucked up songs that you could live about. This is you've got to listen to my words. He sings that over and over. You've got to listen to my words. But most of us didn't. Most of us just sang along and raised our hands in the air like, rock on, Ozzy. And There's artist after artist after artist that are singing these really, really deep and meaningful things that we hear but we don't listen to. So this creates a lot of unrest in people, in my opinion, over time, when you think that, hey, I've played by the rules, I raised my hand, I wore those sneakers, but here I am today, and I'm stuck, man. How am I going to get myself out of this shit? Well, I contend, and I kind of reveal in this, in these essays, is that you've got yourself into this. Your words and what you accepted and believed as to be true has gotten you into this. And it's going to be your words that are going to get you out of this.
So it's that simple, Phil. And the words. I mean, because for me, one of my the biggest torments has been just a series of a few words that echo in my brain, and then there's an image aligned to it, and then I'm like, oh damn.
Yeah,
we attach it can fuck up your whole day.
Yeah, we attach meaning to we try to attach meaning to things, but obviously the first meanings that we attach things to are these syllables and these utterances that come out of our face. They mean certain things, but over time we learn to say, well, man, I hate that dude. No, you don't. That's just a weak use of word, selection. But over time, after you say, I hate strawberries, or boy, I hate, whatever you hate, we use that word over and over again as if it's just an exchangeable for the things that I couldn't really take time to articulate. Okay? Oh, I said I hate him. I really didn't hate him. Well, say what you fucking mean, because it is that one word, that one thing that just can break a relationship. It's that one utterance, that one, sentence, that one where I'm going to teach you a lesson. I'm going to tell my kid to go clean their room. Clean your room, Val. Clean your room, Val. Well, I told my kids to clean their room for 10, 15 years, what effect did that have on my kids? They never cleaned their room. So it made me waste my time, and it annoyed my kids. But really what I'm here for is saying, maybe there was a better way of communicating, clean your room. Maybe there was a better way of, because, look at what is that sacrifice. I could have lost a relationship with my kid or my spouse or my dog or my boss or what have you, just by my word selection. And we all get stuck in this stuff, but I really contend that our feelings and our thoughts are predicated on words first. They don't come in any other order. We are assigned what a word means. We learn how to speak and say these things, but if we're not really good at talking, then we've got to pursue becoming better, right? We've got to take these steps. We've talked ourselves into this by the words we chose, the words we believe to be true. And I'm sorry if the words that you believe to be true were given to you from some fucked up human, okay? That you believed and you trusted, and they shit on you, they broke your heart, they did all of these things to you. I'm sorry that happened, but it is going to be a restructuring and reorganization and a reorchestration of those words that are going to lead you to enlightenment. And what that means is something that cracks open, that allows light to rush in. That's enlightenment. So I really do believe that we humans, we loving, generous, kind humans, really have an opportunity to expand our expression of love and empathy and care and concern, and develop a way to express ourselves better than we are doing currently. I don't know. It's deep for me, but
I love it.
It spills out,
and it resonates. It does spill out. It's the same thing. What I appreciate is that, because I'm a marketer myself. Obviously I'm a as a writer and as a filmmaker. It took me a while to really put a grasp around defining what it is that I am and what I say. But I I realized what Power at the Pass is a communication model. It's really just a way to add value to ideas and
It's
for
a cauldron. It is a cauldron to, I don't know, assemble ideas and bounce some things off, and allow it really to be an incubator to, you know, grander and bigger visions that we can share. This is really an expression of love. Power at the Pass is really an expression
wow,
of
yeah,
love.
that's
Of
heavy,
love.
that's deep, that's beautiful. Thank you. That's and yeah, you're absolutely right. It really is an expression
I
of love.
trademarked those words.
Did
though.
you?
Yeah,
Right now?
earlier, but no, I'm just messing with you.
It's funny. I sent myself an email yesterday with that. I mailed it to myself, man.
All right. It truly is though, Val. This is an exact model of where a lot of people who go, this place is funky and organic, but this is that place that people who need, who are told to wait in line, and if you just keep doing this, then you're going to have success in your life. And when that experience doesn't happen, or this outlet isn't available for you, then people typically shut down. If you feel that, if you feel like you have that artist capability, that business mentality, Power at the Pass is a place for you to maybe find, some seed ideas and seed opportunities to, I don't know, unload new ideas out into the world and get them outside of your head, and work with other people who are in the same place of trying to, launch or
And you know what?
change.
Talking to you on that, and reading your book, and Richie here, our audio engineer and producer.
What's
You want to say what up, Rich?
How's it going?
Yeah. Rich just finished recording 2 other podcasts for his literary. What is it called? Literary.
Literary?
Literary. Richie's a professor, English professor, and he's been with me here the longest. And the past 3.5 years, and and the story of it is that it's like a little. It's a paradox, man. For me, it's like a love. It's like there's a rancor. It's ultimately love, but sometimes like, man, you feel like you just you put forth so much, and you get little return.
I'd say this though.
In some cases,
It's not a slot machine, man. It's not a gumball machine, man. We don't get to, put our credit card in and, take a withdrawal every time we want to.
right.
There's this is an investment. This is seeding. This is harvesting.
But
this is
what I'm saying is that
yeah.
it's difficult sometimes. Like
Sure.
like most times like I learn from Don. I see him as a 92-year-old centurion that like is a Yoda. Like he's learned to just be a consummate Yoda and do something really fresh before he transitions off into the cosmos, right? And with Richie, with what he does with Barbed Wire Open Mic Series, that there in of itself is, if Richie was looking for the proper appreciation and love that he merited off of what he's doing, he wouldn't be doing it. It's that's that altruism that goes unsaid.
This is that unpaid equity,
Yeah.
position to where
Yeah,
you
yeah.
go out and, smart people, like I was thinking about this morning, we live in a society that, the original or founders and, all of these things of where we came from to who we are today. We've inherited all of this. We've been on the shoulders of giants, right? The fact that we have to have attorneys and judges and things, these are all manufactured positions of, importance, and they're needed, but you do have to understand that they are as useless as tits on a boar because of our experience. For example, they're just useless in the sense that
It's reactionary. Their craft is depending on a response.
No, we created a process, a system, a society that requires this, okay? But originally, most everybody was farmers, right? These are the people who are caretakers and caregivers and, work to figure out, how the seasons and how to grow and how to survive. These latter, fields of, specialty fields like marketing, these are assembled entities required only after we've put so much structure and conformity into our lives. And most people didn't go out and yell at the corn to grow faster, right? That was it. We need to retain some of this wisdom that there is process, there is sowing and seeding, and watering and nurturing and caring and protecting and then harvesting. But we all relate to it like, man, I put my money in the bank. I went to work for 30 years, and God damn it, I should be able to retire by now. I checked all the boxes. No, it's just not a gumball machine. Okay, we don't put our coin in and get our candy out. You've got to work the land. You've got to understand that there are seasonal changes and events that are out of our control that delay that can spoil that can kill that can end us, and so forth. But a lot of us just showed up in this life in the 80s and the 70s and the 60s, like me, and we've got schools and highways and, government and jails and law. Well, it's kind of cool, but it's kind of limiting too, because I don't know how to farm. I don't know, have
Right,
I,
right. You're like, imagine if the grid goes down.
That's right. So, but the same thing, like, I didn't read all the history books, man. I didn't read the Constitution. I didn't read the Bible. I didn't, but somebody said I needed to be a Christian or a Muslim or a Buddhist or whatever. I was told what my choices were going to be. And we relate to that culturally. You were told to live into this existence, live in these neighborhoods, live in this kind of, way to, fashion a good life. So all of those things were spoke for us and given to us. And then when things don't work for you, how are you gonna manage it through if you've not read the Quran, if you've not read the Bible, if you've not read, the works of Plato or Freud or Nietzsche? You're gonna be susceptible to other people's influence. So a lot of us go to YouTube and go, "Hey, I heard about this new book, 3 Steps to Financial Freedom." I've heard about this book of 5 ways to unfuck your life, and so we fall for anything. We put a lot of faith in that book is going to save my soul, and I just suspect that I was I was partner to this. I have a bookshelf full of books that I've read 3 chapters of.
Check it out. Check it out. This is what I like about his, Phil's book here is I like his chapter headings and the way, I can always seek argument, critique, and wrongness, or I can always find what is good, right, and kind. For it is the hypocrite who knows no shame from judgment. That's heavy, bro. It is a hypocrite who knows no shame from judgment. I even posted some of that on my social media just to kind of engage a few people. I threw it out there to see if they, the shoe fit. Let them put it on. Let them wear it. I'm going to read you some more excerpts from here. It is, this is, you are free. You are not, know this. I even reminded myself of this. You are free and you are not constrained. If you choose it, you certainly have heard people say and tell uplifting stories about how they have been to hell and back. But we almost never hear people say that they have been to heaven and back. Otherwise, they would have stayed, right? Bam, that's great. And over here, but no, choosing what to believe or follow or pursue does not make the other disappear. It is merely a shift in perspective that can lessen our judgment of others and free us from the fantastic and fanatical stories that conform and trap and conceal our true potential here and now. And it illuminates new paths to follow that are inclusive for all of us, not just some of us. And we can have neither heaven or hell. Now, what I like about this is that you say a few times that that you're not a doctor. You're not a teacher.
I'm not famous. I'm not.
You're not famous and
celebrity.
And what I appreciate about the current state of affairs of publishing and what's digestible and the revolution, if you want to call it that, or just the transition, of internet and social media and one of the popular things that you hear the past couple of years when I'm a filmmaker, I'm a call myself. I'm not even a filmmaker right now. I haven't shot film in 5-7 years. Super 16 celluloid film. I'm actually a content creator, and what that means when I tell people that, so content creation based marketing or experiential based marketing is really how to build your own ecosystem and how to make that desirable. But at the same time, I put in the notes on the script that I just wrote, and I put in there the difference between manipulation and seduction, right? I think there's a fine line in that, and I think it's not. Manipulation is a little more adversarial, whereas seduction is a little bit more, a mutual. There's got to be a reciprocity, and there's more creativity involved. And so what you're providing here with your book and the fact that why can't you, a marketing guy, and you could even call it, just to simplify it, an ad guy, and that why can't you write an important piece of literature that you've also, what I respect about you, and for whatever the reasons are that you decided to focus on quote unquote Hispanic marketing, Latino marketing, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Because you're in the Southwest, you came to El Paso, and El Paso is 88% Hispanic, Latino, Chicano, Mestizo. Right next to 2 million people, Juarez, Mexicans, and now the immigrant, you have people from Guatemala, from Ecuador, from the South, and it's a very complex area. And the fact that you've chosen this in Los Angeles to be your back and forth is very interesting to me, and I think it says a lot. Why can't you write an important piece of literature or writing that is impactful on a day in, day out in people's lives, and is also something that has academic merit, that is, that we somehow feel that we need to have the word science behind us to kind of validate
again,
the quality of what we're doing.
My dad always said that, don't take advice from people more fucked up than you. I don't know if he invented that or not, but look, I understand the way of the world, and I kind of said it in that way. Who am I, right, to tell you how to live your life, other than I see good people helping people all the time, and I see good people falling and good people getting stuck and dying or committing suicide, or having just these levels of PTSD and stress and depression and so on and so forth. There's a ton of us hurting, and I'm not immune to any of that. None of us are. We all have the same fate. It's just what we put in this day that is going to guide us for tomorrow. It's not a fanciful way of saying anything else about someday, or if you do this 10 times in a row or say this affirmation over and over again, that I'm going to be given a land of fruitfulness. It's just not so. If you fuck up this day, my words and my that form my thoughts and my feelings happen now that will impact my tomorrow. Many of us are all hung up in what I did yesterday. I made a mistake, I screwed up, I didn't do these things, and then you get stuck. I'm here to tell you that not being famous, not being a celebrity, not being a doctor is probably given me a better opportunity to communicate more authentically. Again, because doctors and so forth are telling and prescribing and giving information that are, based off of, a lot of group valuation, So we want to generalize and prescribe what helped you, helped this group of people out, and it might well help you. And I just think we need to be much more granular with that, because what limits you in your life has probably stemmed from some kind of relationship with your parents, friends, partners, and that's what's stopping you in life. But we want to assign blame, that Valentine is the one that is, keeping me from having my life, and so I hate him, and he's, represents all that's bad in my life. We can rescript this. And so from a marketer standpoint, here's what I know. You and I get to make commercials, okay? And I get to write the script, and I get to produce the script, and I get to get the words right. Guaranteed, every commercial that is heard on the radio, every TV commercial I've written has every word right, said right, spoken right, recorded correctly, so my audience can hear it correctly. You and I and Rich, and everybody else that listens, don't get the privilege to do that live. The words that fall out of my face can be hurtful and wrong, and typically are wrong. Mm-hmm. And we don't edit, we don't filter, we don't. That's just how I am. That's how people have to deal with me. I think there's much more to it when you let go of ego and you let go of these elements of control and what do I want you to think and know of me. I've got to speak better about who I am and how I am in this world, not how I want you to believe I am in this world, because those are typically our lies that we have told ourselves. We wanted to believe them, and when we realized too late that those words were lies and untruths, we're stuck. And I know it's deep and I know it's philosophical, right? But I know it to be true. Our words got us here this very minute. The fact that you and I are sitting at this table speaking into these mics, the reasons why we are here is because every word that we said and believed to be true. It's the only reason why we are here this moment, this day. Where we are 10 minutes from now or 10 years from now are going to be the result of the words we choose and use to believe.
Beautiful. Absolutely. It's one of the things I tell people that, I had this one, I've had, a few people ask me like, wow, how'd you get this project? Like they see this big building, second floor, 6,000 square feet. And they somehow think that, I'm, that I have money or that I, that I come,
You don't have money?
I got enough to, to keep me going, and you were going to give me some money.
I was going to ask you for some money. That's what I thought. Rich
like a friend of mine was all like, "You're like Richie Rich now with Don Shapiro and this," and I'm like, "Man, if only you knew, I'll pay for myself every week. Whatever I have comes from me feeling like a creative peddler on the market, man. There's no romance to what I'm doing. This is all grit, and this is what I have here. And I tell them at the end of the day, what got me here, when I come to realize, when people ask me, I had a friend of mine that asked me, like, how'd you get all this, Valentine? Young person. I was like, I tell them, I'm like, and I thought about him. You know what? I got it through writing a book of poetry. Mm-hmm. I mean, really, when I nailed it down, the reason why is because I'm writing the story of the owner of the building and the owner of a lot of the buildings in this area, a New York Jewish man that's been here for 63 years and has built industry and created work here for thousands of people. And I thought, well, how did I get in this position to be a kind of a real estate agent that is focused more on media and artists and creativity, to bring them into a space that is conducive and creates energy, is through a book of poetry.
Words.
Words. Who would have thought? Like, people think that poetry exists in the Hallmark card, right, or a university, and that you kind of come out. And I'm like, nah, man. Poetry's words are a technology.
Yeah, but you didn't write those words for this effect.
Not at all.
Okay,
not at all.
But
not at all.
It is those words that led to that next decision and that next idea and that next introduction, and that's how important our words are. And this is why I say, when we relate to things with such vitriol and hate, that it's limiting, and it helps select who you hang with and who you roll with. And again, I'm sorry if you've been hurt, or if you've had breakdown and loss and things that are so unimaginable, painful, life limiting. But if you're breathing and you can still enunciate a few words together, you have a shot. And I really believe that, I'm an unintentional author with a very intentional message, that our words create our worlds. That's not an original, way to say it, but it's one of those things that you've heard 1,000 times and you probably didn't listen to, okay? Like every other song that you've heard. Ask any artist, ask any songwriter, musician. This is why I love country music. This is why I love, the Pain song. This is why I like rock music, Rock and roll guys, they sang these very painful songs, man. Nobody else could sing them. They had to sing them themselves. No matter how good looking or bad their voice was, they could only, sing it themselves. None of them would have won American Idol. Tom Petty would never have won American Idol, right?
Right. Ozzy Osbourne would not have. They would have been kicked out.
None of them would. But they sang these songs from their heart, Think about what Bruce Springsteen did. Think about what David Gilmour has done. Think about what Elvis Costello has done. These guys just poured out, philosophic and poetic, songs that just mow us over if we listen. That's where we are.
Yeah, you know what's funny? There's a chapter in your book when I was reading earlier today. I didn't mean to go off the mic. There's a chapter in the book I was reading earlier today on you were talking about that, about the musicians and the lyrics and the impact of the emotions. There's also a book I read years ago, and I reference it a lot just because it was impactful. It's called The Extraordinary Healing Power of Ordinary Things, written by Dr. Kenneth Dawsey. It was a great book actually, and it talked about exactly what the title is, and that's the healing power of ordinary things and things that people see as myth. There's a certain reality in that, and real, and it's just not a placebo. It goes beyond that, and one of the things I loved in that book was you talked about how there's certain parts of the territory of the earth that the height or the depth of the river stream is conducive and will impact an artist, a lyricist, in a certain way. He even referenced Neil Young going to certain parts of the mountains, and my friend, the poet Jimmy Baca, bought a cabin up in Abiquiu, and right next to the stream, and he takes walks there, and there's like a certain oscillation of energy. And just to go a little out there with going from what words are, I think words, fitly spoken. It's even a song, a word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in a picture of silver, and if you connect to that, those words, that you encapsulate a certain energy, because if you break it down to energy, it's just like, what do you give? And part of what I'm doing with the second book, Pirate the Past, when I just finished, I thought, how do I transpose this man's spirit, this Don Shapiro person who was a poetic businessman, is how I saw him. He was charismatic, he was shrewd, he was brilliant, but he was also a person that loved people, and people loved him, and there was a certain real romance to that. How do I transpose his spirit? How do I create this structure and these images to make sure that this book will stand the test of time, whatever that means, in the next century or so? And I adhere that, and I align what you did with this day, because this day is very Taoist. It's very Zen. It's like the moment. And it's clever because you can't help yourself, because you're a marketer, and there's a certain hipness, and there's a certain skill you have to be a trendsetter. You can't fake the funk, as one of my artist friends says. You can't. And like, even when I try to fake it, I can't fake it. I can focus and write more legitimate material. I can connect characters that go beyond my own manipulations, my own like crude intents. But what you did, with this book is create style, and depth and philosophy, where you can talk about Socrates and Plato and
heaven and hell, and parents and dogs, and all of these things. How do you fit?
But you make it digestible, and I think, isn't that what we do as a copywriter? How do I compress message? With language.
You have to, look, I once this became the idea of, hey, let's take my words that fell out of me, and let's make this into a book and share these words. That's a huge next step. Okay. I wrote for myself. I was fixing myself. I believe it was Nietzsche who said, I'm preoccupied. I am the chief patient in everything that I do. I'm not doing it for anybody else. I felt that same way. And then when the idea came to, hey, this is really helpful things that other people need to hear and to be shared with the world. That's a big step for me. It was. What freaks me out is when people said, "Oh, you got another book in you? 2 more books? 5 more books?" Yeah, I sure do. I don't know. I love the process that I went through unintentionally, and I would dream to have that process again. Okay, so without writing with intent, in-game ideas, you know, I'll write about the next thing that I think fancies human interest. I don't think I will be at this day too. I mean, I just don't know. I know it's in me. I am just going through continual aha moments. And I think any artist who just seeks aha moments, okay, meaning you're an open channel to allow this to flow through you. I don't know what that, looks like, but, the Mona Lisa was not, sketched. It was painted, it wasn't, erased and erased and erased, to look a certain way, to fit a certain image, to fit a certain preconceived paradigm. At one point, he stopped and went, "Fuck yeah, it's good," okay, and put the pencil down, put the brush down, and said, "This is good enough," okay. And many of us want to write the perfect story and the perfect book. You know what? Tell your fucking story. Talk. Don't shut up. Raise your hand. Speak out. Speak truth, power. Do whatever it takes to have your voice and your words and your art and your music heard and shared and given and provided. And because there's endless stories that people need to read and hear and tell and share, and all of these things they're beautiful. The work that you've done with Don is beautiful work, honorary work, and it will have its place, its space, its time, its day, its days, and you will rejoice in the fact that you have organized all of these things, and these things have created where you sit today. And yet you're going to have 20 more chapters to tell after this, brother. You're going to have 10 more books in you to get out into the world. And so this one step that you're on right now is nearer the beginning than the finish of what you're going to churn out to the world. That's what Power at the Pass is about. Okay, it's not making your beginning. It's living into something that you can live forever with.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's not about trickery. It's not about conformity. It's not about, writing a book, like Steve Jobs' book or, Warren Buffett's book. Don's book is Don's book.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And his story is unique and different. It's like no other book. And that's what this day is. It's like no other book.
Yeah.
And I think this is what makes it different than any other self-help book.
I'm appreciating it right now just because, I went to go have a beer yesterday with my, web developer friend, Francisco Martinez over from Untitled.
I know
Cisco.
him, yeah.
Took him to Old Sheepdog Brewery, little plug to my homeboy in his new brewery. We'll be doing some cool content for him. And then one of his bartenders or baristas, or what you call him, tall guy, heavy guy, he's just looking at me, and I say, "Hey man, I just was like in the days, and my mind's been in other places right as of late." And I see that he wanted me to like say hi to him, and I'm like, "Oh hey man, what's up, man?" Shake his hand, and he's kind of looking at me like, just a lot of stress. Like he wanted to just talk for like a brief moment, and I tell him, I said, "You know what? I get it, bro. Like if I was to tell you too what I'm going through right now in my head, aside from the surface or even my heart, it'd be a sad story. It'd be a repetitious thing, and the pain of terms of like." The emotional lessons that come at me in certain ways, and what you have to learn, what you take away, are it's been hard. It's been a hard week, you know,
Yep.
and a couple weeks actually, and it probably boils down to love, you know, probably boils down to a person, a woman, you know, but it's kind of like
It
a
boils
repetitious.
down to the words, bro.
Yeah, and what upsets me the most is not her or her or this thing, or it's me, and yeah, and my lack of yeah, it's my tactful word usage. It's I should know better, you know.
No, these are things,
and
again, you're assigning back to meaning,
yeah,
right?
and your book and just meditation and rewriting the script and diving more into Don's book even more so with my editor I'm going to work with tonight for a little bit before I go watch this fight is you know, and I gotta say, man, I even like was like going fucking nuts the other night. I'm like, how do I get out of this torment? You know, the heart is getting me, and I went to the Bible. I
Mm-hmm.
started reading the Psalms. I just went into the Psalms and like, oh man, wow,
It's
wow,
there.
wow, this is
It's there.
and your book is part of that deep catharsis of like saying, I'm like, this is your own inner dialogue. It's not her, it's you. It's not her. It hasn't been the other one, it's you. It's always been you
Mm-hmm.
in your head and what you repeat to yourself.
Well, I'm honored that you read it, bro, and I'm honored that you get it, and you can't help but not get it. And like anything else, you have no chance of getting it unless you've experienced it or read it. You know, you have no chance of getting spirituality if you have not experienced it firsthand. You cannot learn it from a book. You've got to get out and kneel. You got to get out and pray. You got to read that Bible. You've got to read that, Constitution. You got to read. You've got to dive in and understand knowing. That's our pursuit. That's our endless pursuit. The pursuit of knowing for an opportunity to understand who I am, understand who you are, what makes us same, what makes us different. And many of us fake it. Many of us say, hey, I went to school, I went to blah, blah, blah. I came from money, I can buy myself out of certain things. But I will tell you, we all meet the same fate. And we are on a journey. And you're going to come to a point where you don't have answers or solutions. And you feel stuck, you feel lost, you feel...
And that's what I love about the musical component of it, because like Richie's been here and he knows my listening patterns, man. What is one of the most played ones here is Echoes, Pink Floyd, Krungbin as of late. I'll return to that. I'll go to the Growlers. I'll go on my own. I'll go to like
there's moods.
Yeah, the whole and I repeat certain things because I'm like, I wake up to like repeat, jamming to like old YouTube like obscure shit.
I gotta tell you,
and I'm all, somehow like it just makes me feel better.
My first
manuscript.
manuscript.
I gotta get out of the pain. I need to hear this.
There's two things in what ran through my head was David Gilmour's Pink Floyd. You run to catch up with the sun, but it's sinking. Okay, and it's that kind of expression of like, I didn't, did I miss the starting gun? You run. Catch up with the sun, but it's sinking. Okay. And the other song was The Clamp Down. I was inspired by when Beto was in town talking about his, candidacy for president. He played a song in an intro, and I'm like, holy shit, that's The Clash. I saw The Clash in 1983. And The Clamp Down was just one of those timeless songs that had escaped me. But when I went back and listened to those, and what it reminded me on is that, we are all being, if we don't say something, we are part of, the problem. We are complicit if we act and behave in the ways that everybody's always expected us to. That's conformity. And I understand there's some really great things about societal control and governing and balance and weighing, what's, civilization needs. But there is a game being played. There is a clamp down, and a lot of us go through it. So the music just, again, this book reads like a playlist, right? It bounces
The
and goes
music
places.
just turns me on.
It does.
Where's that from? That's
I don't know.
B-52s, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But cool, man. I'm thrilled that you like it. I'm thrilled that it's made a difference to you, and I really think it will make a difference to everybody that reads it.
I think so too. I think it's just really about mindfulness and connection, and I think this is where what we do as writers, as thinkers, as curators, has a high value proposition in the concrete world out there, and I think we're the ones that are able to connect the heart and the mind and what it all means, and just with respect to the future. And I appreciate you for writing the book. This is one podcast. We'll probably have a few more. We'll maybe break down another part of the book and just continue with this. I had fun.
Thank you.
Yeah. It was good, man. It was a nice catharsis here. I hope you guys, to all my 25 listeners out there, no, not to everybody out there listening. I hope this resonated with you. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope there's a connection. Keep a lookout for this day. There's follow them on social media. Facebook, website. What's the website, Phil?
thisday365.com. You can find me on Amazon, barnesandnoble.com. The book's out there. It's available on ebook. It's fantastic. It's available in paperback. It's also fantastic. And this is one of those books that you'll share, and you will have to experience. Like I can't tell you how good a bottle of wine is. You're gonna have to drink that sucker, and drink it in and slosh it around. This is just like that. This day is delicious. It's wonderful, and that flavor will be with you for a lifetime.
Absolutely. Beautiful. And on that point, guys, thank you for listening again. This is Power at the Podcast, and we're signing off. Thank you, Richie, and you all have a great night.